Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the weather warnings. We still have some yellow warnings issued for the aftermath of Storm Babet as the most severe impacts have cleared through now, but into Sunday we're still going to see strong winds and heavy rain, especially in western and southern regions. We'll look at that in detail on the latest UKV, looking at the precipitation and the temperature over the coming days, as we are going to see a much milder coming week as temperatures do get back towards average. There will be some cold weather at times. It is of course getting towards winter now, so inevitably any sort of northerly shot will produce some frosts and some chilly conditions, and that could happen during the middle of the week, but generally we're back to a more of an autumnal feel. As we head into the longer range, the end of November does look like it's going to be fairly typical, with westerly flows, some cooler intermissions like we just highlighted, but nothing too special. It's as we head into December where the uncertainty does build. We are seeing the risk of blocking returning, but as we have alluded to over the past few videos, there really is little consistency between the runs. Some runs are very cold, blocked with snow and wintry conditions. Others are westerly and stormy, with the high pressure far away. So it does look like the models don't really have much of a consensus for early December, which does leave the door open. And considering we've just come out of a very cold and block spell, I wouldn't be surprised if another one was on the horizon. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see the warm front that brought all the heavy rain and snow in places has now cleared. It's well out into the North Sea, and we can see that pretty much all precipitation, bar from a little bit across northern Scotland, is now falling as rain, and temperatures even into southern areas are well into the double digits now. So huge contrast this time yesterday when temperatures were close to freezing. Now, the worst conditions earlier were of course in the north. Heavy snow, at least initially for quite a few, followed by heavy rain and stronger winds. We actually saw an extension of that amber warning, another amber warning issued across southern Scotland and northern England, which did expire at lunchtime. And now those most severe impacts have cleared. It's actually transitioned further southwards. So yes, the most severe impacts were in the north earlier, but now for the next sort of 12 to 24 hours, the most severe impacts will be in the south and the west, where we are now seeing more heavy batches of rainfall as we do start to see the cold front moving through. Of course, we've got a warm front well out ahead, and now we've got the cold front, which isn't as organised, but will bring lots of rain over the next sort of 12 to 24 hours. You can see in the south lots of areas of rain. It is on and off. It's not a big wall of rain. There is going to be brief dry periods, but it's very windy and with lots of bits of rain around. So it's going to be a really unpleasant evening across much of England and Wales. If you do look at the temperatures though, you can see all the warm air is moving in now. Still a bit chilly across Scotland, but it will be warming up even here in the coming hours. You can see the big southwesterly winds pushing in. You can see that stark contrast starting to build. If you do put on the latest winds, we can see the latest wind speeds. These are not wind gusts. You can see it is strongest in the south and the west at the moment and across parts of Scotland. But as I said, the most severe impacts now will be for those more southern regions as we see the cold front sweep through. And if we do just look at the past 24-hour precipitation, in terms of snowfall, you can see we did see a lot of heavy snow in the north. Again, really over the highest ground was where we saw those big totals, 20 to 30 centimetres. But remember, this is falling snow, not accumulating snow. This is the estimate from the radar about the snow that fell out of the sky. So you can see even a bit of snow further southwards, but none of this really stuck. And again, I doubt all of this stuck as well. So yeah, it is showing 20 to 30 centimetres, quite a large swathe here. Probably only more in limited areas where we saw those amber warnings. Most other regions saw a bit of snow, a few centimetres, before it rapidly melted into the afternoon. Now, if you go over to the weather warnings now, you can see we have got numerous warnings issued over the coming hours, but you can see they are focused further south, so westwards. We've got this rain warning issued for parts of central Scotland into eastern Scotland, and it's really mainly for more rain, but mainly for that thaw of lying snow. This is near enough a carbon copy of where we've had the amber warning earlier, so I do suspect this is for mostly, more rainfall, but lots of melting snow, and that moves into Sunday morning as well at 7 a.m. expires. Pretty much the same warning here for southern Scotland. And then we've got another warning here for parts of northern and western England, again for heavy rain from 4 p.m. this morning until 7 a.m. tomorrow, again for some thawing snow and for more rain coming in off the Irish Sea. And then the main bulk of the warnings is further south, with this rain warning issued for most of Wales expires at 6 a.m. tomorrow for more heavy rain, expecting maybe 100 to 125 millimetres in a few spots over the course of the event. A larger rain warning issued for southwest England. Again, we're looking at a similar amount, 100 to maybe 150 millimetres, and it expires tomorrow at 11:45. So still lots of heavy rain around for these regions into tomorrow. And then there's wind warning that expires at 9 p.m. tomorrow. So even though the most severe impacts have cleared for birds, we're still going to see heavy rain. And again, we could still see 60 to 70 miles per hour even through towards tomorrow evening. And then if we move in tomorrow, we still have all those warnings still issued. And then we've got further wind warnings issued for western and northern Scotland for 12 hours tomorrow afternoon from midday until midnight. Again, we're looking at maybe 70 to 75 miles per hour in some exposed regions. And then for Northern Ireland, maybe 45 to 55, up to 65, and expires at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Now, if you head over to the UKV, you can see the heavy snow early this morning and very heavy rain that is now clearing. And you can see over the course of this evening, we've got the remnants of Storm Bert with the cold front now sweeping through, and it's going to give lots more heavy rain, especially through Sunday morning, lingering all the way into the afternoon in some southern regions. It's going to be really quite miserable indeed. But eventually all clears into Monday and we go into a northwesterly flow. We could actually see chillier conditions once again for Tuesday into Wednesday, maybe a bit of a frost. And then we've got this low pressure system that tries to bump into that cold air. There is the risk of a bit of snow associated with that. But if we do look at the upper air temperatures, it's not quite cold enough in southern areas to see snow. You can see the cold air mass moves back in, but it will get pushed away once again later this week as we see westerly winds returning once again. And this is just a temporary ridge that tries to bring in northeasterly winds, bringing a bit of snow showers in the north and potentially a few overnight frosts during the middle of the week. If you look at those max temperatures, you can see again double digits through this evening and overnight, maybe an isolated frost across the Highlands of Scotland, but most areas all above freezing for the first time in about a week or so. And then into Sunday, still very warm or even mild in the southeast, cooler further north and westwards, and then into Monday it turns fresher for all temperatures, back closer towards average or below average, high single digits. And then into Tuesday, it's a little bit chillier, again a frost in a few spots, and by the afternoon 6 to 8 degrees, so a little bit below average there. And the same can be said for Wednesday, more widespread frost, especially for northern regions, and then into the afternoon, pretty chilly day. Mid-single digits to low single digits. It's actually a really quite cold day there for Wednesday, but it's not going to last all too long. Maybe another frost there into Thursday, but as we'll see from the longer range runs in a minute, it is a sort of a temporary colder northerly wind only lasting a day or two. So even though it does look pretty cold here, it is a sort of a temporary blip, as I said at the start of the video, with a bit of a transient northerly wind. If you just finish by looking at the wind gusts, you can see very strong winds move through earlier today, but we're going to see more batches of stronger winds overnight tonight. Again, 50-60 miles per hour, and maybe another batch of 70 to maybe 80 through tomorrow afternoon into the evening for those western Scotland areas and Northern Ireland, and that's why I think we've got those yellow warnings issued there for tomorrow. And then even as we head into next week, again, it is still gusty, but it should hopefully clear by the middle of the week. Now, if you head over to the latest GFS, you can see Storm Bert moving through at the moment. Eventually it clears and we do see this transient northerly in for a time. And you can see we've got this slightly colder air mass pushing in from the north for a period of time, but eventually gets pushed away by milder winds by the end of next week. So the last week of November, yes, a bit up and down, but generally it does look fairly mild. Beyond that, we do start to see a westerly flow trying to dominate early December, but into the extended range. Look at this, another big ridge trying to push up towards Greenland and trying to push something colder in. Now, the GFS has been really toying with this idea over the past few runs. So this is the midday run, a bit of a colder northerly wind, but nothing extreme. The 6 o'clock run, high pressure right over the top of us with a southeasterly flow. The midnight run, look at this, a bitterly cold northerly wind, and the 6 p.m. run yesterday with a block towards Scandinavia and a real battle between westerlies and easterlies, as you can see here. So all the runs have got no real consistency, which just tells me that the models, and especially the GFS, doesn't really have much an idea on the overall synoptic pattern in the longer term. Normally, we do see lots of chopping and changing between runs, but generally, most of the time, there is some sort of consistency. It's either mostly westerlies, maybe a few alterations, mostly higher pressure, but it's where the high pressure goes. Here, it's a whole array of options, with high pressure being completely dominant, low pressure being completely dominant, and that just gives me the indication that into early December, there is a big uncertainty without the overall sort of northern hemisphere synoptics. So if anyone's saying it's definitely going to be cold, or definitely going to be mild, definitely going to be wet or wintry, they're not looking at the models. They're chopping and changing. Yes, one run might support that idea, but the next run will be completely against it. And that's why I can't say it's going to be mild, can't say it's going to be cold. I'm just going to be able to say that it's uncertain and potentially very changeable. Now, if you have a look at the GM, see if that's similar. Again, we've got Storm Bert moving through, that slightly chillier northerly wind into the week, and then a westerly flow does dominate. But look at this towards day 10. Again, we've got high pressure trying to build towards Greenland, and it's trying to plunge a very cold northerly wind. We need to see a bit more of a sustained block here to see something properly cold dominate, but look how cold that air is. It is very close by. So the GM definitely on board with something much colder into early December. And if we do go back to the midnight run, just to compare, it's not particularly similar, but the overall northern hemisphere synoptic is similar. It's not a northerly flow here, it's a southerly tracking jet stream, but there is this block towards Greenland. So interestingly, the GM, the last two runs, have actually been consistent with each other. Not overall impacts at the surface, but the overall northern hemisphere outlook, the synoptic pattern, very similar with that block towards Greenland and deep areas of low pressure towards Svalbard and north of Scandinavia. So quite strong agreement there from the GM here towards day 10. Interesting to see that. GFS nowhere near. And finally, if we compare it to the latest ECMWF, the midday run hasn't fully come out, so we'll look at the midnight run. Again, a westerly flow is pushing through later this upcoming week after that little ridge of high pressure during the middle of the week. And then as we head into the longer range, there is signs of high pressure extending northwards. But you see the tropospheric polar vortex is a bit more organised here. So it only builds in over the top of us and towards Europe. So it'll probably be frosty and chilly. There is a big cold pool out towards Eastern Europe here. You can see that on the upper air temperatures, a big cold pool appearing. But generally for us, we'd probably be chilly and a bit frosty if we do go to the surface. You can see this slightly chilly temperatures towards sort of the mid to high single digits. So nothing too unremarkable here for early December. And we'll do exactly what we did for the other runs. Have a look at the midday run from yesterday's ECMWF. And very similar. It's not got much of an idea. Yes, some more higher pressure towards Scandinavia. It is a bit chillier with a northwesterly flow. But again, if we're being completely honest, it has got not a lot of consistency at all. And if we do finish by looking at the latest ensembles, the midday ensemble run is just coming out, and you can see it is very changeable over the next sort of 10 or 11 days. High precipitation in the coming days, and then lower precipitation longer term, but not zero. Just to compare to the 6 o'clock runs, we get out to that extended range. You can see those changeable conditions, some cold runs, some mild runs. So again, it backs up our theory that the models don't quite have a clue the pattern that we're going to be seeing into December. And then finally, if we look at the ECMWF ensembles, it's very similar. Mild over the next couple of days, colder during the early part to middle part of the week, then turning milder towards early December. And then as we head into the first full week of December, very, very changeable, very uncertain. Could be colder options, could be milder options. We'll have to wait and see. So definitely turning milder over the coming days, but we are still going to see some chilly weather around, especially potentially Tuesday, Wednesday, and we are going to see a lull in any disruptive weather. No snow and ice, no storms, no stronger winds, kind of from Monday onwards. So that is a positive. But as we head into December, that could all return. Unfortunately, I have not got a particularly concrete answer for you today, just because of the uncertainty we've got. As I showed you from all of the operational runs, the GM was the only one where the 2 consecutive runs actually had any sort of agreement towards the end of their ensemble, end of their time frame. So that's why I can't really give much of a consensus. Sometimes we get to the end of all of the runs and they're all very consistent with the overall synoptics. Here, not got a clue, if we're being honest, and that means it's going to be impossible to say what exactly we've got. All we can go by is the fact that we've just come out of a very cold spell, which means blocking returning isn't unheard of. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like the GM happened. But equally, the GFS and the ECWF in some of their runs have flirted with strong westerly, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's occurred either. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.